I have joked in the past that I would like to ban panel discussions in the City of Toronto, so I refuse to call this next section a panel. But I am going to invite 4 more very smart women to join me up on stage, and we're going to have what I'm calling a live tactical brainstorm. It's not a panel. So we're going to keep this short because I know that you guys want to get to the point of actually networking with one another and talking about each other and what you're going to do to move the dial. I'm going to ask them a few little questions, and then you guys are going to have the chance to do a Q&A too. So start thinking of good questions. Don't embarrass yourself. There's a big crowd. I'm going to start by introducing our live tactical brainstormers. We have Janet Bannister. She's a partner at Real Ventures, Canada's largest early stage VC firm. She launched Kijiji, she was at eBay in Silicon Valley, and she also worked at McKinsey. Next to her, we have Jen Lee Koss, the founder of BRIKA, who's also involved in Right to Play, which is run by her life partner. She's an experienced executive in investment banking, private equity in the consumer retail sector. She's a Juilliard-trained cellist and graduate of Harvard University, Oxford, and Harvard Business School, if you're impressed by such things. She's also pregnant with her 4th child and 3rd boy, so she's really screwing with our numbers a little bit. Next to her, we have Eva Wong, who's the co-founder and COO of Borrowell. She's the founder of Toronto Homecoming. She's a graduate of Queen's BCom program and has a Harvard MPA, is that a typo? She's a feminist, she's a mom, and she's a baker, and she believes in faith, simplicity, and community. And then finally, we have Abigail Slater, and she's the chair of SheEO Canada Fund. She's an MBA from Schulich. She's an entrepreneur, a feminist, a former restaurateur, a fighter for social justice, a mentor, an impact investor. She's the founder of Eat to Beat, the largest all-woman chef food gala in support of breast cancer and its support services. So please join me in welcoming our brainstormers. I know where we're supposed to screw our water. Can everybody still hear me? Okay, so we're going to start off with a little warm-up. You guys each have a whiteboard that we're going to use occasionally. I can't do anything without thinking about how I'm going to Instagram it, so this is my Instagram contribution. So I want you to imagine that you are at a panel discussion or roundtable for the tech sector. There are 10 people present. I want you to write down how many women there are in the room, including yourself, and then hold it to your chest.
We're doing a reveal all together?
We're going to do it one at a time.
Oh, okay.
All right. Janet, how many? 1, being you. Yeah. All right. 1, 2.
Two.
Oh. Got a long answer here. Do you want to read it out?
Not enough, and not enough underrepresented.
Yeah. So that's the problem. I think that sort of sums it up in one thing. This is what you guys are experiencing. This is what a lot of people are experiencing every day. We don't want to totally bum people out, though. I want us to come up with solutions. So Janet, yes. You're the one person in the room. How do you use that to your advantage?
So, being in this industry, I think I've had the opportunity to work in a bunch of different industries, and this is being in venture capital is by far and away the most male-dominated industry that I've been in. But I view it as a bit of an advantage. I mean, I guess like anything, do you look at something glass half full? And first of all, I find that when I go to events, it is about, if there's 50 people in the room and there's only 1 or 2 females, I always figure, hey, if you meet a bunch of people are more likely to remember me the next day, just because I stand out a little bit. So use that to your advantage. So I think that's one thing. I guess that's the biggest thing.
So I think we want everybody here to leave with an idea of what they can do to move the dial forward. So I'm hoping that a couple of you or all of you can share the best piece of advice that you've gotten in terms of either increasing your own representation, getting people to change the way they look at women in this sector. Eva, do you want to start? Do you have something that? Oh, yeah. Either one.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of the things is just being willing to put your hand up. I mean, I like to share the story that I'm a co-founder of a fintech startup, and I previously had no background in financial services, in startups, or in technology. And so that's the trifecta, I think. But I think one of the other things that I've come to realize is that I meet with a lot of people. Our CEO Andrew meets with a lot of people who are interested in fintech and interested, potentially in a job at Borrowell. I would say 75% of those people are men. maybe even more. And so I think the one piece of advice is like, don't think that you're not qualified. I loved what was shared earlier about like, have the chutzpah, have the audacity, and your number one enemy is yourself. Like, put your hand up. You know, the worst thing that's gonna happen is someone doesn't respond to your email.
Yeah, I would say you belong. Don't think you don't belong. And as Hillary said, you are powerful and you are deserving. And that's something that you have to really internalize and believe, because it's true. And the way, what women bring and how women behave should not be looked at as weaknesses. They should be looked at as strengths. So if you behave in a way that you feel is different or feminine or as a woman, that is a strength, and bring it as a strength. Bring it on.
I was just going to say, like, I think one important aspect of the entire thing is make sure you get the invite to the table. I mean, I think that's the first thing. Literally like 30 minutes ago, Eileen Lee, who doesn't really need intro, but you know, former Kleiner, runs Cowboy Ventures, coined unicorns, one of my idols, she just literally tweeted, she's like, conference organizer, you know, don't promote your event, forget to invite a woman, get heat for it, and then invite a woman. Not cool. You know, so I think it kind of starts from the beginning. Like, people who are organizing these events should take into account, whether they want to or not, that all forms should be represented at the table. And we do bring, to be honest, a very different perspective, I think, than men.
So have you done that? Will you like seek people out and be like, I should be in that room?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely. I love what Eva said, which is, you know, don't be shy. I'm like the number one believer in not having any shame, which means if you want to talk to somebody, or if you want to get somebody's attention, or like email them or call them or find a way to meet them, because the worst possible case is they say no, but you were already expecting no. But more often than not, people will take the time, or they will say yes, and then things happen. So, absolutely.
Yeah,
Janet,
I think like tied to that. So I love Jen. She's one of the most persistent.
This is like mutual.
She's one of the most persistent people, and I think that one thing that I see sometimes in women is that they don't have the confidence to assert themselves, and when they do and they get no, then they assume, oh, it's because I'm a woman, oh, this isn't gonna work, right? And so I think that you need to, as my advice for the women in the room is, you know, recognize that sometimes, like naturally, if you read the stats, that women are not as assertive as men. And so I think that just recognizing that in yourself, if you're not being as assertive, say, okay, look at myself, okay, I need to work a little bit harder here, I need to try a little bit harder, and just keep on going.
Yeah. It's interesting, you don't want this to become a thing of comparing like how women operate to men, how men operate, but I work in a very male-dominated industry. I'm the only woman at the table every morning at 7 a.m. when we have our morning meeting, and it's kind of been amazing to me to see how sort of actively they will advocate for their own positions. And it's been really informative, I think, for me. Is there something that you've seen guys do that you think women should do more?
Oh, I'm sorry. I hate
Like
that
it?
question.
All right.
I actually see things that women do that men should do more.
Okay.
And I think it's
That was
really,
the next question.
I think we have to stop trying to be like men.
Yeah.
And we have to allow men to thank you. I think we have to allow men to begin to see the values that women bring that may be different. It may be a different way of advocating. We don't advocate any less, we advocate differently. So we have to educate men to shut up, maybe, to turn to the women at the table, to say, we haven't heard from you. What do you have to say? That question, I'm sorry.
That was my next question.
That is such a trigger. That question is such a trigger for me.
For the next question. All right.
We don't need to change women, we need to change the systems that are surrounding women.
What is one thing that you think that women do that we should be actually encouraging people to see the value in? Give me an example.
Listening. Stepping back, not having to be the loudest voice in the room, but actually the quiet voice in the room often has very interesting things to say, so that we all have to listen better. And I think that men tend to take a power position, so they have to just step back. And I think it's the listening skills, it's some of the softer skills, it's the listening skills.
But I would argue, I think that often, like there's in Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, she talks about women having to sit at the table. And I think that, that's an example where, again, there's research done. If there's a table and people are sitting around it and there's not enough chairs around the table, that women are the ones who will naturally go sort of and sit off. And so I remember reading that and I thought, yeah, of course, if there weren't enough chairs at the table, I'd sit off in the corner. And there's an example where now I'm aware of it. So I think, okay, I'm gonna sit at the table. And so, there's a little thing, but I think again, the theme of, just being aware of our natural tendencies and understanding, hey, in some cases they're gonna be super beneficial, and in other cases, you know what, you just gotta adjust your natural tendencies to put yourself forward a little bit more.
Jen, when you were raising money for your company, did you find that you had to sort of adjust your tactics because of how maybe people were reacting to you in a way that they wouldn't have reacted with a guy founder?
100%. I think there's a couple things. Like, you learn a lot. Many of you have already been out there probably raising money or have been out. Fundraising is probably one of the most grueling, soul-destroying, processes you could possibly go through. It really is. And it's also distracting if you're running a business. I would say that I changed my tactic entirely. Like, I think in the beginning I was quite naive. I should just go and I should meet with a lot of people and talk to them and pitch my idea and do this whole thing. And eventually I realized, one, a lot of people don't get it. If you're running a business, for example, I run a retail business, a lot of men may not understand it. They might understand the product, they may not understand the ethos of what I'm trying to do. A lot of answers would be like, oh yeah, show that to my executive assistant, or I'll show that to my girlfriend or my wife and see if she likes it. Not really kind of the diligence that I would hope someone would do. But I think as I went along in the process, I realized, one is choose your audience. Who is it that you're going to go to ask for money? And my approach would be I want to go to the people where I just do not have to explain really what it is that I'm trying to do here. They just get it. And I think that was one, change the audience. And the second is grow thick skin like you wouldn't even believe. You're gonna hear a billion no's over and over again, and you can't take it personally at all. It's, everyone has their opinion. Some people like your thing better than the other. Some people will tell you okay, I love your idea, but it should be this, this, and this. Great, that's their opinion. So I think it's about growing really thick skin, getting okay with no, and sticking to your guns a little bit if you feel like you really are trying to do something special.
Eva, you set a target at Borrowell to have gender parity within your employee ranks.
That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about that and how you've had to sort of adapt to implementing that?
Yeah, no, so I think, one of the things, I think part of the strategy of becoming a gender balanced company is to publicly state it. And so appreciate the shout out. But it's been challenging because at the same time, as a startup, you always want to hire the best candidate as well. And so we never want to be in a position where, again, we're choosing a candidate that we think is inferior just because we want to meet some sort of goal. But yeah, I think it's important to us that we make sure that there are, great female candidates at the top of the funnel, that we're doing things to make sure that Borrowell is a place that is female friendly. And but I would say it has been challenging for the reason that I shared before, which is that of the people that reach out, a large majority of them are men. So it's a challenge to the women in the room.
I want to ask all of you, I read a great Washington Post article that I'm sure you guys have about the Obama administration and the women in there spotlighting one another and actually consciously saying, okay, I'm going to repeat, if a woman in the room says something that I think is valid, I'm going to reinforce that and I'm going to call her out by name and say, I agree. I want you guys, again, using the whiteboards, I want you to think of one woman in the Toronto tech scene that you want to spotlight. I want somebody you would invest in, someone you would name in the board, to a board, somebody you would hire, somebody you think other people should hire. And I want you to talk specifically about that person and why you want to draw attention to them. Who wants to go first? You guys didn't really hesitate there.
Well, I have 3.
I'll go first.
You got 3? You can do 3.
Wow.
All right.
Okay, so I'll go first. Somebody named Katja, I saw her earlier, I don't know if she's here, but she started a business called Udio, and it is using AI to help it's agri-tech, in leveraging AI. And what I love about her, she is in a very male-dominated industry. I mean, she's selling to farmers in California. In male-dominated technology area in terms of specifically AI and machine learning. And she has talked about chutzpah. We talked about chutzpah earlier. Like, she has so much chutzpah, and she does whatever is needed to close the sale, to hire the right people, to build her business. She sleeps on floors of friends' houses if she needs to down in California for weeks at a time, rather than spending the money in a hotel. And she's just somebody who is a great role model, and she does it all while staying true to herself and who she is.
All right. I hate to do this, but it's a bit of a cop-out, but I did put a question mark. And yeah, because I've had a discussion about this actually with the panelists as well before we came out, and I was saying, like, I really thought long and hard about this. Like, of course there are lots of women I could choose or someone I could, but at the end of the day, I don't know, I just feel like there's not enough of this spotlighting in general everywhere so that people know who these people are, who maybe I'm not steeped enough in the environment to understand, who it is that I could choose. But honestly, off the top of my head, I cannot think of anyone.
What if I just asked you, like, who's like the greatest person you know in like the tech scene in Toronto?
I just feel like I don't run in those circles, which is sad.
You're just home with your 4 children?
Yeah, I'm not busy at all. So, in my spare time. No, I really think, and maybe this is a very strange way to put it, but I think, like, having gone through a time where I was raising money and in the venture scene and doing this whole thing, and then realizing who my audience was, and getting a better honed in perspective on what I was doing, that at the end of the day, I'm not sure if I needed to put a moniker on myself and say that I'm a tech company and that I need to be around tech people all the time. And I think there's a little bit of a danger in doing that too.
Right.
And so I think I subconsciously or consciously stepped a little bit out of that circle. So I feel like I'm really not as steeped in it as I should be.
Yeah. Eva?
So I'm going to do the sort of, I put Jodie Kovitz down just because I feel like she's doing a great thing in spotlighting women. So a little bit of a cop-out because I do think there's lots of great women in tech, but I just want to really thank Jodie for for organizing this. I think it's always like being a promoter of of women in technology. So I think she's doing a great job. And again, someone who's not necessarily like a technical person who's taken a role as CEO of a tech company. That's great.
So I have 3, and I actually could think of more, but I have 3. Lali Rementia, who comes from tech, who has done amazing stuff with women and is ensuring that women are investing in her portfolio. Janice Diner, who's here tonight, who has an amazing company that is a tech company and should be recognized over and over again. And Petra Kasun-Much, who is also here, who has a media platform, Lisbeth, for female entrepreneurs, and you should all go on and check it out. So they are all doing amazing stuff, supporting women and really putting their heads down and getting the work done.
So we're literally going to throw it out to you in a minute. We have these great devices that Mars has provided called catch boxes that are little sort of portable mics. So we're going to throw it around if anybody has a question. Before we do that, if people want to start raising their hands, I want to put the challenge to the panel. You don't all have to answer this if you don't want to, but we're trying to move the dial. Is there anybody who wants to commit to something that they will do to try and move the dial in Toronto?
Well, the work we're doing at SheEO is precisely that. So we are changing up the way women are funded, and we reach out to women entrepreneurs. We form a community of activators. So we really are doing everything we can to move the needle in the dial.
I was going to say, is this a question? I was going to say, I personally love meeting with young women entrepreneurs. I'm so inspired by the energy that they feel and they bring to what they really want to do and how they want to change things in the world. And so I think the thing that I commit to is mentorship. I very rarely do not reply to emails, and I very rarely say no to meeting someone for a coffee. I like caffeine. So I commit to that because I think that that is something that I feel like I lacked maybe in my professional career somewhat. And as they say, like, you know, the glass ceiling isn't there typically because of men, it's there because of other women. And I really feel strongly about that.
My commitment is similar. I think if you are willing to come to the Borrowell office and you're interested in a career in technology or specifically a career at Borrowell, I am more than happy to meet with you. So yeah, just feel free to send me someone. We're actually hiring for a number of different jobs, so check out the careers page and help me get to our target of being a gender balanced company.
So I'm just going to say, I'm actually not going to answer that question, but I'm going to say something else that I think needs to be said before we open it up, is I would just like to applaud all the men in the room. And so I think we should just clap for all the men who are here. Because we've been so talking about, what women need to do, and I am extremely impressed by all the men who are here. And I have been, again, yes, venture capital started very male dominated, but I have been very impressed by how many male venture capitalists are proactively looking for female entrepreneurs, and how many male entrepreneurs are saying, they come to me and they say, Janet, we need to hire more females. We need to get a female on our board. We know that that's important. And so I think too often in this discussion, the men are sort of violated or left off to the vilified or left off to the side.
They can't catch a break, those guys.
Yeah, I know, but I just want to say, I really applaud all the men who are here and all the men who are recognizing the importance of diversity.
All right, who's got a catch box in the back?
Can I just say that that's what it feels like to be a woman at most tech events, is how you feel now.
In the back.
My name's Neil Wainwright. I'm a CEO, and I've been a CEO for about 25 of my 33 years. I'm a software engineer by heart. And I wanted to let everybody know that of the software engineers I've known in my life and the businesses that I've done, and I'm now a coach for entrepreneurs, the best engineers that I've worked with are typically women. I was fortunate enough to speak at Queen's University to about 150 first-year engineers yesterday afternoon. So I had university students on a Sunday afternoon come and hear me talk, which I would have never done when I was at Queen's, but they did. It was probably 30% women in the audience. They asked 80% of the questions. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're female and you meet a female engineer and you're wondering if they're any good, chances are they're worth 3 to 5 times what a guy's worth. Because if they've succeeded and they're in that, they're very passionate about their business. And I encourage you all, when you meet women engineers, to really work with them because they're going to really rock and do really well for you. So thank you.
Hi there. So my name is Erica. I was actually just going to ask the whole panel. I'm at the very beginning of my career. I've kind of done, school for English. Now I'm in marketing. And the question is, if you were right at the beginning again, what would 3 tips you'd give to yourself for kind of getting a jump start on understanding the space, so that I feel like a lot of people kind of feel like they're drowning when they first enter into it. It's really overwhelming. So what are 3 tips you would give to your younger self, or, a sibling or whatever, to kind of get yourself ahead of the curve at the beginning?
Well, I can come up with one. I have to think about the others. The first is to talk to as many people in that field as you possibly can, and be bold. Don't be afraid to ask people that might be your competitors, everyone who would have anything to do. So really do your research. I'm not going to say network because I don't think that's the right answer. I think you have to be more targeted to actually talk to the people that will help you. And don't be afraid to ask for help either. Don't be afraid to ask questions that might show that you don't know something, because that's the best way to learn. And most people want to help someone that's starting out and recognize that you may not have all the answers and are willing to provide them.
Right, thanks.
I'll say, sorry, go ahead. Okay, I would say, if I had to say 3, I would say, number 1, read a lot. Read every day. There's so much that it's always changing. You've always got to be reading. If you can read an hour a day, that's fantastic. Number 2, I would say be yourself. Like, you know, you are who you are, and be yourself, and never try to change who you are, because that's not going to be a good end result. So be who you are and find the environment where you feel comfortable being yourself. And then the third, which is a little bit unusual, but I'm going to say it because I'm more and more believe this is so important, is be physically fit and be active. And I think that that gives you the energy and the passion and just the self-confidence to achieve all that you need to get through in a day.
Great, thank you.
Anybody else? Or?
I would say, I'm not sure if you're at a startup already or not yet at one, but I would say like pick the company. Just pick the company really wisely. I would say the position itself isn't so important, but like pick a great company where you believe in what they're doing, where you can believe in the culture, and I think where there are great people that you can learn from. And where they believe in, you know, giving you a whole bunch of different opportunities and roles, because I think there's no better way to learn than to be like in it and in a great company where they're willing to invest in your career.
Yeah, I would just piggyback. I don't know if it's the company or if it's the people. So figure out, you know, who is it in the space that you admire and like why. Figure out why, and then figure out how you get close to them.